That's Delightful,
a member of the Pod Bros Network.
Welcome to That's Delightful. Online at facebook.com/That's Delightful. Now time for That's Delightful.
So I think we've all decided then episode 65. We're going to go with episode. Not show, not week. It's just going to be episode. Michelle's already on her phone, and we're about 10 seconds into this podcast.
I'm trying to fact check a Hitler post. Thank you.
Well,
as one does.
It's not something that Hitler did. It's not Hitler's post.
It's not a night of podcasting without a little Hitler fact checking.
Okay, so I'm not fact checking Hitler though.
Well, I hope your facts about Hitler were spot on, or at least changed if you accurately fact checked.
No, I like fact-checked it.
Fact-checked it.
Fact-checked it.
All right, patreon.com/That's Delightful. Also, facebook.com/That's Delightful. What's our Instagram? Because we are on Instagram, but we never really mention it. You just look up That's Delightful on Instagram.
We're on Instagram?
Yeah, dude.
We're on Instagram.
We've
IG,
been posting,
dude, where you been?
No, Facebook is for old people. My niece told me that, and ever since then,
Everybody
I've had
says that. It's making me so sad.
I know. I've had like a midlife crisis since then, and I'm on IG now. All the time.
You do the IG?
Instagram.
Facebook owns Instagram.
I know.
What do people think they're... Whatever.
I fell victim to my niece told me I was old.
It's like
So
Nickelodeon and Nick Jr.
I can't have that. I gotta be young and hip.
Somebody explain this to me, because Instagram is just Facebook without words, right? It's just pictures.
No, you can make words.
But it's not. It doesn't lend itself to that.
But okay, so here's the thing, and this is what you will catch yourself doing, is when you click on the little magnifying glass down here, the search button,
Yeah.
there are videos. And these videos are tailored to you through algorithms. So you find yourself watching 1-minute videos.
You go down some deep rabbit holes,
You
dude.
really do.
You go
I
down
don't
some
wanna
deep
do
rabbit
that.
holes.
No, but it's fun.
I have the YouTubes for that. Is that for grown-ups now,
it's
too?
a different type of YouTubes.
I don't.
It's 1-minute videos.
This
It's
week,
7-minute
world
ads.
has like 2 weeks left in it tops. Why am I going to go discovering new social media outlets?
Why do you care about anything because of that? The world
I should
is
stop
ending.
going to work.
On Instagram, you can find us at Totally Delightful Stuff
See,
if
we
you want
can
to
always
IG
count
with
on
us.
Ian to keep
Ian, what's your energy this week? I'm trying to read it, but you seem like pre-miffed.
Um,
You're miffed, huh?
Why are you
No.
mad?
What are you miffed about?
I'm not. I'm really not. What's happening here?
You're not your usual
Dude, this is
stuff.
the second time in a week that somebody's come at me
Hey,
thinking that I'm
Toots,
feeling
smile
one
more.
way.
You look better when you smile.
Smile more. It makes you more beautiful.
I like to see that inner light.
So Totally Delightful Stuff on Instagram is where you can find us. And again, we've gone back to the episode moniker now, so we are episode 65. Although, and I would like to make a clear-cut case here, we don't do episodes. This is not an
This
ongoing...
is really eating at you.
It's not an ongoing series. We're not like
This is
episode.
not-
No, you don't have to tune into episode 64 to understand what's happening in episode 65.
I think
Sometimes you do.
Yeah, you do.
No, there's a couple of intermittent jokes
Can
that
we call it Miss Calienzo or Miss Calienzo? I can't
Miss
even pronounce
Calienzo?
it.
Okay, first of all, quit trying to get in on Kalian. Second of all,
Colleen
there's-
is its own thing.
There's some jokes that we can recall that people would get, but that goes back several quote episodes.
Okay,
Because
but if we make
Fuck You Bill Whittle was funny 5 episodes ago, but Fuck You Bill Whittle doesn't apply now. We still say Fuck You Bill Whittle.
Fuck You Bill Whittle was like 25 episodes ago.
And you know what? They're super excited about it because I think that's what Alejandra wanted us to put on her button.
The Fuck You Bill?
Ale?
Yeah.
Was it Ale?
Yeah.
Was that what she wanted on her button? I couldn't understand. I thought she was just saying "and fuck you, Bill Whittle."
But you're obfuscating. What's going on? How you doing?
I'm fine. I just don't understand why we're calling standalone shows episodes when they recall.
Why did you put it up for a vote if you didn't want to honor the vote?
Because he wanted you to do it his way. He's not a control freak. But
I vote shows. Show 65.
But show doesn't
No,
sound
don't
good.
pander.
Show doesn't sound good.
This is how you build character in people.
But here's the thing is that if it was something I cared deeply about, I would stand my ground. But I care about you more than I care about what we called this episode.
that was a
show.
really nice thing for him to say.
I'm gonna drink my Diet Pepsi and
Why
move
are
on.
you? You were
was
fine
fun.
earlier. What happened?
What the fuck? I'm great.
I think he could
Okay.
tell that I wore this Rick and Morty shirt, hoping that he would see it and want to watch it with me. And
Oh,
he's
he's been
annoyed that I
watching
keep
it.
trying to make Rick and Morty a thing.
No, he's been watching it.
See?
Do you like it?
Yeah, I do like it.
Have you gotten
I do
to Pickle
like
Rick
it.
yet?
I didn't realize it was Sarah Chalk.
Oh, that's Sarah Chalk.
Oh, I love Sarah Chalk.
Yeah.
By the way, I also have a new celebrity crush, Zoe Lister-Jones.
Zoe Lister-Jones,
I
who
can't with
is...
Zoe.
So
I know
okay,
this.
Go new girl. Remember when Schmidt dated the councilwoman?
Oh, yeah.
She's also in a show called Life in Pieces. She plays Tom Hanks' wife.
Colin Hanks' wife. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But she's my new Zoe.
Wow.
She's my new Zoe Deschanel.
You know who she reminds me of is, what's her name?
Michelle Riley?
Yes. No, from Live Hard, Sell Hard.
Say that.
She's a lot like
Catherine Hahn.
Yeah. Same vibe.
Yeah. A little dry, a little...
You have a famous type.
I do, don't I?
Yes.
I've got a type.
Yeah.
He has the non-famous type too. You can see. I can always tell who Ian would like. Like there's those that the girls that he would like to do, and then there's the girls that I know Ian would marry if I wasn't here.
Do tell. Who would I marry if you weren't here?
You have a very you like the girl next door type. You're not a fan of lots of makeup. You would prefer. You don't notice when I dress up versus when I dress down, and that's not a diss. You prefer the sneakers and tennis shoes and t-shirt, or
So somebody who doesn't
jeans and t-shirts and
not too precious.
Low maintenance.
But the other common thread is someone who's going to sass back, though.
yes, he likes
someone
to be
who's
put in
going
his
to give
place.
some lip.
He does.
I wouldn't say I like getting put in my place, because getting put in your place implies that you don't win.
You said that.
I said that.
Because being put in your place implies that you don't win, and I like to win. I like somebody who's willing to challenge. I would prefer somebody who's willing to admit when they're wrong most of the time.
That's. You should have married.
I don't know
Joey.
if you do. I think you're a little bit like Schmidt now that I think of it. You kind of want someone you can like sass at it a little bit, and then at the end of the day, they're going to tell you what's up. This is fun.
I could see that. Okay.
No, because he dated a girl, and this is no disrespect to your ex-girlfriend, but Katie didn't push back with you
Ever.
No,
Ever.
And you didn't marry her, did you?
And I had
didn't
zero
like her.
respect. I had zero respect for that entire relationship. From day one until day, wait, no, don't go. Okay, anyone want to come over?
essentially.
Man.
Until like this day. I mean, like now you've gotten over your like weird hatred of her. You're just kind of like, eh. Looks like she's happy now. But like in all fairness, though, Ian paid for her to go to like massage school, and then she left with her colleague.
Yeah.
Moved in with him.
Wow.
So I mean, that would embitter someone.
I not only paid for her massage school, which wasn't cheap, but
I think he's more mad because he didn't get a massage from her. Anyway,
I got
Did
one.
you feel like you were putting a down payment on lots of massages?
I got one massage one time. I thought there would be more, and I was willing to pay. Massages are one of my favorite things in the whole wide world. But I also, all the stuff you guys are doing right now with opening up your private practice, I did that for her because she wanted a massage studio. And so we turned one of the bedrooms in our upstairs townhouse, we turned the spare bedroom into a massage studio. And I'm telling you, I decked that fucker out. The walls were decorated. I had flat screens on the wall for ambiance. I had speakers in the corners. We got her massage table. I had her set up for hot stone therapy. I did all of this stuff, all the things that she said she needed to have a successful massage therapy practice. And she had one client one time. Dude never came back. I'm assuming because he thought he was going to somebody's upstairs townhouse, that it was going to be more than a massage, and it was not. And she never really pursued it. And then she got a job at Massage Envy, and she started humping one of the dudes she worked with, and then she moved out. But I'm not bitter.
In that order.
He also cheated on her. I'm just, like repeatedly.
She was not the only one at fault in that relationship. I'll just say that.
Gee, this sounds like a lot of fun and all, but
Long story short,
saddest short story I've ever heard.
Long story short, she never pushed back.
She never gave me a massage. I mean, well, yeah, I fucked a few people, but
She never pushed back against me emotionally or in terms of muscle tension.
All right. It's a good thing we're getting some laughs out of the way right now, because it's been a shitty week.
it's been a terrible week.
With the Supreme Court. We're going to get to that. We're also going to talk a little bit on this podcast today about, what did you call it, tones?
The dulcet tones of civil disobedience.
Civil disobedience. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get to
I
it.
was going to say, if we can touch on that, because I think that is going to be a little bit more lighthearted than the shit that happened within the Supreme Court.
I don't know.
That can get pretty heavy.
I think it's all part of a piece. The bad guys are winning, basically.
And
If they
it's-
haven't already won, in fact, the trap is sort of closed at this point, and now we're just describing the darkness.
And you'll notice a different response between, honestly, the structure of privilege within the
It's true.
left.
It's really true.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so the Supreme Court of the United States of this America has a justice who's decided to retire, and that's Justice Kennedy. Yeah,
Tony Kennedy.
He's the moderate conservative who was looked at as a swing vote. He is from Sacramento, California.
Is he?
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Yeah, he's from
Then maybe we
Sacramento.
should talk to him.
And he does not like being called the swing vote. He likes being called the guy who votes his conscience.
Oh, bullshit.
And
I bet
he-
Scalia liked being
he
called
was-
that too.
I had more respect for Scalia.
I wonder if Scalia still feels that way down in hell.
He's retiring within a month, or he's retiring in the next month.
Right, which
at
is
the date of this
convenient.
podcast.
So his conscience told him, you know what would be smart is if I retired before the election when the people can't interfere and Trump can insert another paid for by ALEC justice. But, you know.
So this
Let's do a quick review of history here, because the Supreme Court has gone through some changes over the last couple of years. We had a court that was pretty well balanced. Obama appointed a couple people during his 8 years.
To bring more diversity.
Yeah. Sotomayor, Samuel
Kagan.
Alito has been added over the last decade or so. Elaine Kagan. And right as we were heading into the election season, Scalia died. Antonin Scalia, the second biggest douchebag on the Supreme Court.
Let's be real. It was in July when Antonin Scalia died. So, I mean, Obama still had a lot of time left.
Yeah, half a year. A full half a year.
that was when there was the public outcry because Obama did not attend Scalia's funeral, and then
Who cares?
if you look back, there's a lot
That's
of
because
presidents who
Antonin
didn't.
Scalia was
I'm
never
sorry,
really
did Trump-
alive. He was in demon form. He took on human skin
You know what's odd,
to
though?
sway the Supreme Court.
Just random fact. Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia were like best friends.
Yeah,
in real
because
life.
Antonin Scalia had the courage of his convictions. He wasn't wishy-washy at the very least.
Right. Anyway.
You had people like Kennedy, who really hasn't been much of a swing vote over the last couple years. There were some issues on which he would be a bit more moderate. But, for example, this week we had a couple of decisions where he was the swing vote in the conservative direction that were pretty big decisions. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. When Antonin Scalia died, or shed his human form and went back to the pits of hell from whence he came,
Is the sound he made.
within an hour of that event, Mitch McConnell went on Twitter and said, there will be no confirmation of the Supreme Court until after the election. The people of America deserve the chance to weigh in on who they would like to make this next appointment. And the uproar was mild to moderate because the Democrats are a bunch of weak-willed. I don't even know what to say about them
They're
at this point.
waspy.
Yeah, they basically they said, "Hey, can he do that?" And then it was done. It was over because Mitch
then they were
McConnell.
like, well, let's take the high road, guys. Come on, let's take the high road.
Right. President Obama could have made a recess appointment and at least had somebody in there temporarily, but he didn't do that
He didn't
because
do that.
Obama also tended to take the high road, which I used to think was a good idea. Now
It's
I'm feeling
not.
like, what are we doing?
In this climate, if you're not going for blood like everybody else, you're cooked.
Where we're going, there are no roads. Literally.
Really, we are off-roading on the pits of hell right now. So basically Mitch McConnell managed to take away a seat on the Supreme Court that would have gone to somebody moderate. President Obama was willing to appoint somebody moderate. He
Fucking
wasn't
Merrick
trying
Garland.
Merrick Garland, who everybody, Orrin fucking Hatch, thought he was a really good choice for the Supreme Court. Mitch McConnell, who I think of all the people in Washington is the most hypocritical. Trump is dumb. Jeff Sessions is evil. But they have the courage of their convictions. Mitch McConnell is a whimpering idiot genius.
I think if Antonin Scalia was a demon from the pits of hell, I'm pretty sure that Mitch McConnell is actually Satan in human form.
He's Satan's codpiece. Satan wears them to cover up his junk when he
Yes.
goes out in public.
Yes. Is he a Satan condom?
Yes. He has an unlimited supply of Satan condoms, Mitch McConnell.
And
I think you might have ruined sex for me forever.
we're going to call it your Mitch McConnells.
We've talked about Mitch before. It's been a while, though. He is the most punchable face, more punchable than Ted Cruz, more punchable than Paul Ryan, certainly more punchable than Donald Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump is like a kick to the nuts. He's not punchable. He's somebody that you just want to castrate.
There are moments where you look at Donald and you go, poor guy just wants some love and nobody loves him. They're just using him. But Mitch McConnell, he is a true beast of a person. So we lost that seat. Trump was all happy to put somebody in there who was Neil Gorsuch. And now we have Kennedy leaving, and they're going to have another seat. This seat will go to a moderate and will sway the direction of the court. We'll have a reliable 5-4 conservative vote, which means everything from reproductive rights to LGBT.
I don't even think it'll go to a moderate. I think right now he's trying to appease his base. And the thing is, like with the decision on Monday with the Muslim ban, I think that he will appoint somebody who will happily uphold racism and homophobia and destroy women's rights. But hey, you'll get your fucking assault rifle. Know that.
Yep. They're going to look at double jeopardy again. You see that?
What?
Yeah. Whether you can be tried at the state and federal levels for the same crime. They're looking
Oh, I
at,
hope they do, because I have a feeling it'll be more Republicans than anybody else.
Right.
So, I mean,
When you really want to, and I hope people take pause, because when you think about the way that nations are shaped and the way that a country is shaped, and for better or worse, history is history. And you look back at the party lines 100 years ago versus where they are now, and Republicans were more like Democrats back in the mid 1800s and vice versa, and you're always looking for that shift. And when did a country start to do things this way? When did this belief become okay and this one's so wrong? We're at a crossroad right now where our country is going to be drastically, potentially reshaped.
so this is essentially, I think, where we're at with our country is it's like having a big bag of coins and throwing them all up in the air.
Yeah.
And we're right now midair. There is no, I don't think, I see the line shifting. I think the right, like, if you were conservative before, you're in a David Duke racist conservative territory now. If you were moderate before, you either came over to the more liberal moderate side or you fell over to the conservative side more, like your friend Gary Lewis, who probably actually wasn't that conservative until Trump came. I mean, he seemed like he was more of a moderate when I would follow your conversation in the past.
Well, and I just had a conversation with him last night where he was siding with one of his relatives that it's the fact that we took God out of this nation.
Sure, that's what it is.
That we're falling apart.
Don't worry. Now with the Supreme Court nomination, we're sure to get God back in.
We're bringing
schools.
God right back in. I asked his buddy. I said, so what do you tell? I wish I had the conversation in front of me, but he said basically, if you look at all the areas that are controlled by Democrats that have taken Jesus out of or Christianity out of the playbook. Those are the most violent, vile places. It's the Republican-ran places, parts of the country that have Christianity that are the peaceful places that, who's done more for anybody in this world than Christians, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not knocking Christians, but I asked him, I said, so what you're saying? And he said, we're a Christian nation.
No,
I said, we're not a Christian nation. So what you're saying is, I said, what would you tell a Jew who came along and said, we're not a Christian nation? Would you say, yes, we are, and you're lucky to be here? And he came back with, well, actually, I'm part Jew. You can't really be part Jew.
No, you either believe in Jesus or you don't.
But
like, that's a thing.
But it was like you were saying, my friend who was probably not that, he was a little more moderate than anything, has bought in full hardcore right.
And then we have our friend Dave, who I think has fallen. I used to have pretty in-depth, detailed conversations with Dave, who fell more on the conservative end of things, and I find him tagging me in posts more. About, Dave is one of the only people that I genuinely, I don't see any malicious intent behind like his teasing or his jokes. but he tends to fall more what?
He just tagged us in a post as you were saying this.
Did he really?
It's a meme that says, your parents in 1996, don't trust anyone on the internet. Your parents in 2016, freedomeagle.facebook.com says Hillary invented AIDS. That's so true.
But here's what it feels like to me. Christianity has become not a moral system for so many people. I mean, not that there aren't devout Christians out there or devout members of any religion, but it's starting to feel like a sports team that people are rooting for. Like, I am a Dodger fan or I'm a Yankees fan. I am a Christianity person. Donald Trump isn't a Christian. He doesn't go to church. He pays lip service to it, but it's like that is the jersey that his team is wearing. So now all of a sudden everybody is really up and into, defending Christianity. But if you were to ask them, what is it you believe? A lot of these people wouldn't be able to describe it. Donald Trump certainly couldn't.
I don't think that's new though, because I remember when I went to, briefly, when I was in middle school, I went to a youth group at this Baptist church, which is pretty hardcore. And, I went to socialize with my best friend who was going at the time. And I think she was going because her mom wanted to be rid of her for short bursts of time. And I remember kind of sitting there going, oh, the thing is, I don't really believe any of this shit. and I didn't. And so, I asked them, I remember asking them one time, what does the Bible say of the dinosaurs? And they were like, well, it talks about the big creatures. And I was like, that doesn't seem accurate to me.
That what?
And then, when they said, if your friends don't believe in God, you shouldn't be talking to them. That's when I was like, see, I just don't think that's true. I don't think anybody would say that. And I noticed, though, that people, when I kind of shifted away from that and I would say, I believe in God, I don't identify with any religion. And they're like, well, what does that mean? So what do you believe? I believe in God. So do you read the Bible? No, because I don't believe in religion. So what does that mean? It's like there's no concept of you can believe in God and not believe in Jesus. You can believe in God and not believe in Allah. I mean,
right.
There's lots of different things that you can believe. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
But it drives these people to do so. Let's go down to Arizona where there's the pharmacist who refused to fill the prescription for the abortion drug. And it's the same thing. And in that case, that's a pharmacist who I think is bound to, I don't know what the laws are with pharmacy, but aren't they bound to fill it if they have it, if you have a prescription? I would assume so. It's not like the baker who's refusing to bake the cake.
No, I think they can use I think because of the opiate laws or the opiate issues and prescription abuse, I think they're allowed to use their discretion, just like a bartender can cut you off.
So because this involved a 35-year-old woman who was told by her doctor that at 9 weeks she had an unviable pregnancy and she was going to ultimately miscarry. So she was prescribed a drug called misoprostol, which would induce a medical abortion. And when she went to fill it at the Walgreens, the pharmacist there said that he was ethically opposed to filling the drug and asked if he could transfer her prescription to another pharmacist. And she wrote about it on Facebook. It's been shared 45,000 times now. But
did he refer her to another pharmacist?
Okay, fair. Yes,
okay,
he did.
So he didn't say, I'm not going to have anything to do with this at all. Take it back to your doctor.
And Walgreens does have a policy saying its pharmacists are allowed to refrain from filling drugs that they have moral objections to.
As long as they're giving it to someone else, right? I mean, you can't refuse to give that to someone, but...
This is driven by that whole morality thing that I mean, we should have morals.
I mean, there are people who, and I grew up in a church that has very strong views on abortion. I grew up liberal and very conflicted about it. And at the end of the day, I have very strong views on it that fall more into a progressive camp. But when people talk passionately about abortion, I believe that a lot of them have they're either conflicted about it or they have genuine beliefs that are fueling that. And there's a lot more to the debate than that about whether your strong beliefs should be pushed on someone else. There's a lot to it. But I think that some of that is a genuine emotional issue for some people who can't get past this idea that we're taking a life away. So that's...
So, sorry, do you...
No, please go ahead.
So, you know, this is the kind of stuff, I mean, in general, it affects, I have the belief that if you don't have a uterus, your opinion is irrelevant in the law. But at the end of the day, I don't think that he did anything that was super wrong. You're allowed to not believe in abortion. It is a highly personal decision. And I think it's a decision that each person should make for themselves. And that's the difference. That's the distinction. He didn't tell her he wouldn't do it. He said, I'm going to refer you to a different pharmacist. I cannot fill this.
So then don't we run into risky waters here then, where somebody like her, like she's up against the clock on this one. Okay? So you got a pharmacist that says, I'm ethically or morally objecting to this. I'm going to refer you to a different pharmacist. What's stopping every single pharmacist from saying, I'm ethically against this, let me keep referring you, until she can't get the medicine that she needs for a pregnancy that's not going to be successful?
So I see the logic there. I just don't think that that's a reality that's going to come to pass. I think that if anything, the law will step in and stop abortion from happening before personal convictions will. I think that was
I think this is a question that we need to debate as a society. How do we preserve the right to individual beliefs without infringing on the rights of others? I mean, this is a slightly different issue, but we had somebody ask Sarah Hucakbee Sanders to leave a restaurant this week, and we can debate how that happened and how it went down and whether it was done fairly or not. It's not the exact same issue, but are people entitled to enforce their beliefs through their job or their business that they run? And there's a national debate that is not always very consistent, where people get very angry when their side is asked to take their business elsewhere, but quick to defend people whose beliefs they support.
Nuh-uh, what are you talking about?
And if we can get to the Sarah Huckabee Sanders thing here in just a moment, I just want to tie this back real quick with the pharmacist in Arizona and the outrage that was caused by him referring a woman to another pharmacist. This may not be an option for her at all here in the future, because we were originally talking about the Supreme Court. And if it goes full right, if Donald Trump has his way, then you were saying earlier that something like Roe v. Wade could come back up in front of the Supreme Court and could possibly be overturned.
It will undoubtedly come back before the Supreme Court. People have been pushing it for years, and it's been shut down every single time. I think, I don't think. It's funny because it'll be all the men that vote against it.
It's a lot of men who are. It's just, and in a case like this, I mean, these are emotional issues. There are a lot of ways that abortion comes to be part of a discussion, and everything from an elective abortion to an abortion to save the life of a mother to terminate a non-viable pregnancy. And I'm not weighing the relative merits of any of those. And again, as a man, it feels weird.
Sometimes you just don't want to be a parent.
I said elective abortion.
I know.
Right. Do we force somebody who doesn't want to be a parent to carry a child to full term and then raise it? Probably badly. But having gone through a pregnancy when I was married that was not viable partway through, and having to go through that, or watch my wife go through that, because I physically didn't have to endure any of that, but the very real health complications that come from that, it's a terrifying thing. And if there had been medication that we'd had to go get from the store, and in the midst of trying to wrap our heads around what was happening and deal with the health implications of it all, to be told, sorry, not going to give you that medication, I'm not going to give a fuck about what that guy believes at that moment. And I don't care who he's referring me to. I just don't want to have to deal with the added emotion of having to deal with that. And I wish that we could be a little bit more respectful of beliefs that differ from our own at times.
In general, and I agree. And I think the abortion debate becomes so much more than, there is the element. I've carried 2 children. I've had them in my body. It is completely different. It is a very miraculous feeling. It's hard to describe to anybody else. I hated pregnancy personally, just because it's fucking uncomfortable and you have to worry about what you eat all the time. It's annoying.
What about the glow?
No, I didn't glow.
Pregnancy's not beautiful. Pregnancy's not beautiful.
I was
pregnancy sucks.
Poor Ian. He was like traumatized because I was heinous. Anyway, but it's really hard. I personally, I don't know that I could make that call, but I don't want to take that right away from anybody else. And that's the important part of that debate, is it's not about how you feel about it. It's not about how, your personal conviction. You're so entitled to that. I absolutely respect that. Just leave it the fuck out of my laws.
And so now with the Supreme Court, it's you've got a panel that's like mostly men kind of having like this little bromance and speaking their own language and making decision on women's bodies.
It'll be the 5-4, and Samuel Alito will be the only man voting against.
Not unlike The Language of Bromance, which is a podcast starring Richard and Sean. Their cast tells the story of Richard and Sean, two geeks looking for order in a world of chaos. Language of Bromance discusses everything from comics, movies, video games, gaming, and even dives into the depths of the ocean to discuss sharks. That's Language of Bromance, a podcast found on the Pod Bros Network at podbros.com. You can also email The Language of Bromance at eatthebeaver@languageofbromance.com.
So I think there's nothing more tone deaf than possibly inserting a bromance podcast with Eat the Beaver in the middle of a woman's rights discussion. What do you think, Kelly?
I respect your beliefs, Ian. No, it's getting worse every week. I hope you can find more and more distasteful ways to insert.
The piece of shit in you wants to high-five me.
No, not this time. Last week, maybe.
But the moral part of you is stopping.
I think pretty much all of
Ian found his smile again, though, so that's fun.
And it was by being a douchebag. Yay.
That's your...
I owned that. I bought that. The whole cow.
Oh, man. That's how you Hulk out.
That's Language of Bromance at podbros.com.
So anyway, Supreme
That's all right.
Court's
We're all gonna
twisting.
die.
We're just all fucked.
We are making our voice heard, and some may agree and some may not through, I guess you could call it civil disobedience. Sarah Hucakbee Sanders was asked to leave, I think it was the Red Hen where she was eating. I forget the woman's name, who's the Department of Homeland Security director, but
Kirsten Nielsen.
She was chanted at until the restaurant made the protesters leave. She was eating, and much like Melania's tone-deaf jacket that she wore to the border camp, she was in a Mexican restaurant after saying that, if you come here illegally, there's nothing we can do. You're going to get arrested and prosecuted. And they all came in there and started chanting at her, and the restaurant made them leave, not her. She ended up leaving shortly thereafter, though, I think just out of pure uncomfortableness.
I don't think Evil feels discomfort. She probably just had a case of, heartburn.
She just didn't like being surrounded by so many of the unwashed masses.
Right.
You two were kind of looking forward to discussing this because Michelle thinks that she may be on the opposite end of you.
No, I don't know. I said it'll make for an interesting discussion. I don't know where we both fall.
Who wants to unpack and go?
Well, I mean, we've sort of dived into it already. There are... It's a really nuanced discussion because on paper it all looks like the same thing. But there have been recent decisions defending the ability of a bakery, for example, not to make a wedding cake for a gay couple getting married. And that is a difficult decision to parse out because I don't think anybody should refuse to make a cake for anybody. Cake is delicious. And marriages are fun.
Weddings are awesome and cakes are delicious.
Hey,
And
ask
yet-
Kelly about making a cake with that, whatever that stuff is called.
With fondant?
With yeah.
Fuck that stuff. It's like making a Play-Doh cake. It's horrifying.
And it tastes disgusting too.
Yep. It's chewy and gross. So, I mean, maybe if you wanted to be passive-aggressive with the gay couple, you don't approve of gay marriage, make a fondant cake. If that's what you need to do.
Oh, I'll make your cake.
Just make the cake and use some beautiful fondant.
And
But-
then everybody will hate it.
Because it looks wonderful. Let them make their own edible cake that they can use on the side. But I don't know what we're talking about. But so there's that. And then you have on the other side, a lot of people saying, okay, well, you're not going to serve our people. We're not going to serve your people. And it becomes this kind of us versus you guys thing. And so now people have chosen up sides. And we have some genuinely horrifying issues happening in the country right now. And people are grappling with the best way to push back. And the way that some people have pushed back is that those who are in power, the current administration, as they've gone out in public and tried to eat at Mexican restaurants or just gone to their homes. Stephen Miller, who's many think the architect of the current immigration policy and all-around monstrous person.
Yes.
He is Mitch McConnell's codpiece, just as Mitch McConnell is the codpiece of the devil.
He's the human condom for Mitch McConnell. He's the human condom for Satan.
Can we call him a dong bag?
The Mitch
He's the
McConnell
dong
cock
bag.
ring.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, man. So people are protesting outside their homes. They're trying to make them uncomfortable. The administration has made many other people uncomfortable, and it's felt that it's appropriate to make these people uncomfortable. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is, by all accounts, a disingenuous and hypocritical, lying press secretary, demonstrably.
Who did it better or worse, Spicer or Huckabee Sanders?
Is it weird to miss Spicer? He just wasn't as effective at it. She's better.
Spicer, well, he wasn't as convicted. Like, he was just loud and boisterous and would, like, talk over people.
Yeah.
She, like, believes in what she's saying.
Yeah, you can see she puts some oomph into it when she talks.
There is, like, she has
bought in.
Yep.
Okay.
But that's the thing, is that we have all these people who seem to think that the ends justify the means. Everyone from Mitch McConnell to Paul Ryan, all these people are justifying bad behavior and horrible policy that violates human rights. And
the ends do justify the means. Their pockets are fully lined, and it doesn't affect them at all.
And I think they're hiding under this banner of morality that is paper thin. But for whatever reason, they're doing what they're doing, and they are justifying all kinds of immoral behavior to do it. And she went to a restaurant, as you said, and the owner recognized her. And the accounts that I've read suggest that he calmly approached her, said, I can't in good conscience serve you based on the things that are happening in our country right now, offered to comp her meal, and asked her to eat elsewhere. So he didn't tear into her, wasn't verbally abusive.
It's no different than the pharmacist at Walgreens who said, I ethically can't fill this for you.
Well,
May I refer you to another? He comped her meal.
He might have called a restaurant across town and said, they have a lovely chicken parm over there.
But he comped her meal. I mean, it's not...
Yeah,
like,
he didn't take her money.
He was
He
just
didn't
like,
call
no,
her
cool, we're
names.
good. Just please don't...
It's not, I'm sure, nice to be asked to leave a restaurant, but it's also not nice to have your children ripped from you.
Right.
While people
That's
on the
not nice
TV
either.
say that you're getting what you deserve.
As a person who's been asked to leave a restaurant and asked not to come back for a minimum of 6 months, I can tell you there's a nice way to do it and a not nice way to do it. And it sounds like he did it the nice way.
What did you do?
What's that?
I don't...
I quit. Okay, I was 19 and I was a drunk. I quit my job as a dishwasher at one of the Denny's I worked at. And to put a little extra stank on it, I decided to tell my manager, Rachel, that I thought she was a bitch. And I flipped her off and I left like in glorious fashion, thinking I've really made my mark. This will show her. Well, she had a job the next day and I didn't. And then I decided that I was going to return to the scene of the crime with my buddy and get coffee like nothing had ever happened. And the manager came up. He's like, I saw everything on the video that you did last night. Like, why would you think you could do that? You're not welcome here. I'm like, okay, give me a time frame. Tell me when I can come back. You want 6 months. You can come back in 6 months. Okay. So I came back like 6 months to the day because I was an asshole like that. And I thought it was funny and cute. But it like even though I made my statement leaving and I left the way that I left and I thought, wow, I really showed them. I felt really embarrassed and stupid when I left. Like once I actually reflected on it, wow, what an idiot I was. So there's a nice way and a not nice way. And when you do something stupid and they ask you in a not nice way, you feel dumb.
Honestly, I wouldn't care if he was rude. I mean, at this point, there's a lot of stuff that's happening within this administration. There are a lot of double standards. There's a lot of, they're literally making their rules up as they go, and they're getting away with it repeatedly. And do you know why?
Because we keep clinging to our high ground and our morals.
Yes.
Yeah.
High ground and morals are wonderful in theory, but when they are literally eroding people's lives, it's easy to stick to your high ground and your morals when you're a white male. It just is.
Yeah.
And that's primarily who I'm seeing talk about we need to stick to the high road.
Yeah. Chuck Schumer came out and said, we have to be civil. We have to be nice to our enemies. And to be honest, that was my reaction. When I saw this, I thought, you know what? When these people who proclaim to be Christians and they are claiming to have this moral high ground, the best thing that we can do, the best fuck you to these people, is to live the morals that they claim to be living. And it's a moral victory to be nice to people. That's the teachings of Christ himself, is that you turn the other cheek, you're kind to them who use you. And for a couple days, I just sat there stewing with that. And then I realized what you're saying, that this assumes a level playing field where everybody's playing by the same rules. And there is a different set of rules being played by, and we're literally losing everything that's made this country good. It's circling the drain right now, if not already down.
What exactly is it then? All these people that are holding so strongly and tightly to the right, what exactly is it that they're hoping happens? What is their euphoric world that they're hoping to get out of this?
The 50s.
The Garys that I was talking about. What are they hoping for?
It's a pack mentality. It is really like, at some point you lose track of what it even is, and it's just devotion to the team you're on.
But they have that, we don't, and that's why they keep winning.
I know, they do. And well, it's like it's like when the Warriors started winning, and all of a sudden we had all these bandwagon jumpers. People are excited to be on the winning team, and they, at this point, that boulder is rolling downhill so quickly that they will defend anything that happens. They are on the side of the winning team right now, and it doesn't matter.
I'm not asking for people to sympathize or empathize or anything like that. I'm really not, because I think there are people who are feeling this far worse than others. And, I'm sitting pretty in my owned house with a relatively easy to manage mortgage and a nice job with a good pension.
Fabulous husband.
Exactly. And, I've got a lot of privilege.
Mowed the lawn today.
And,
really nice.
Are you done?
Go ahead.
So
Also edged.
I think there's an element of privilege where I could say this and not feel the anger, but to answer your question, I think a lot of people are hoping to get back to the economic security that we used to have. And it's a lack of knowledge and understanding. We used to have low crime rates. We used to have drug addiction was better hidden, I guess. The homeless,
less deadly.
Right. The homeless population was, in camps that we didn't have to see. And people had jobs, and there were benefits that you didn't have to pay a ton of money for. And then on top of that, deductibles. And they blame who they were told is at fault. They blame the immigrants. They blame Obama because, he tried to level the playing field with insurance. And they just want to feel like they want to feel secure. And we all want that. And they see, they're pointed at the coastal elites without acknowledging that fucking Donald Trump wasn't a coastal elite. I mean,
yeah.
Right. I mean, he came from New York and is a coastal elite. So, they blame these people, and a lot of it's true. In San Francisco, I mean, if you go there, they are so stuck up their own ass with these, no plastic straw. You have to pay extra tax for water.
That's right. We got the paper straw at that restaurant, huh?
Yes. And so, I mean, there's it's a city ordinance now, I think, that you can't have a plastic straw.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's like little stupid shit. Don't get me wrong. The environment is important, but there are people literally homeless wandering their streets, shitting in the middle of the road.
Showing me their junk as I'm trying to escort my wife to a comedy show. And then telling me to swallow it.
But I'm not blaming the homeless. I'm just saying, people have real problems, and you're worried about the straw that you use.
And I felt so bad for them, I almost did.
That's what's going on. And there's a lack of understanding of how we got to this division of wealth. And the Democrats did have a large part of that. Bill Clinton was a large fucking part of that.
Absolutely.
And he deregulated to the point of almost essentially no return unless we overhaul the whole system, which is where socialism now comes in. And you see a lot of socialism. We're finding that other countries operate better with the socialist system. And what's happening now, the Supreme Court justice isn't about moral high ground. The Supreme Court justice is, you're going to see a lot of stuff coming through on unions, like the Janus decision, which was just passed, which essentially took public sector unions and weakened them, because all the people who, we have a shop agency dues. And what that means is that people who are covered by the union contract, regardless of whether or not they pay, are covered by the union contract.
Right.
So you don't have to pay to get the benefits. And there's a lot of mistrust with unions because they have gotten so political. So people are disgruntled with them and they're happy to see them go and they don't want to pay. So what you're going to see, right.
They're going to be so sad. There's so many things that they won't feel the effects of them for 5 years or 10 years.
Right. And then you're going to see what happens.
It's going to be the dark ages and there will be nobody to help them.
I got an email from our union president who is absolutely awesome. I'm on involved in a special side of that. And he basically said, we're supposed to be meeting with the undersecretary of healthcare. And he's like, they're foaming at the mouth right now because the Janus decision. They are out for blood because they know we're going to be weakened, period.
Yep.
And when our wages go down, all wages go down. So that's where the disconnect happens. When unions go away, wages are going to go away. Who's going to fight for you?
Right.
And you're just going to have people like me who are loud and have oppositional defiance disorder, but I'm not going to, there's going to be no backup.
Does this set the stage for like another labor revolution?
It's going to, it'll be years,
It'll
but yeah.
be a while, but people, there will be a greater and greater discrepancy. It's already epic, the divide between the haves and the have-nots, but it's going to get to the point where there's going to be genuine poverty, widespread and rampant. The middle class is already disappearing. And
This killed the middle class. It'll kill the middle class. In public sector or private sector unions are next.
This is the whole point of the idea of pushing back, and why a discussion about whether it's polite to ask somebody to leave a restaurant really misses the point, because we're assuming that people are all playing on a level playing field. And I keep thinking about Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown, because that's really what this is. We have a team that keeps assuming that this time maybe they'll play nice, and this time maybe we can have a civil discussion.
There's no more reason.
It's not going to happen, and they keep proving over and over. Mitch McConnell, after saying we will not confirm anyone until after the election, seemed to be saying that he believed, and you can argue whether he's right or not, that we need to, in an election year, hold off and let the people weigh in, and then let those people that they've elected decide. But now, in the midterm elections, when the same principle should hold true, within an hour of the announcement of Justice Kennedy's retirement, he said, we will hold confirmation hearings before the elections. He's outed now as a complete hypocrite, and the point is, he doesn't even have to try and explain it away, because it doesn't matter. He's already won. The Democrats have no power to stop this. They're going to bluster. They're going to stand at their podiums and yell and scream about hypocrisy. And it doesn't matter, because the winning team is so far out in front that there's nothing we can do about it. So at this point, asking someone to leave a restaurant is a token gesture at best. But it certainly is nothing compared to the things that they're doing to the people of this country. And it's going to have to get a lot more disobedient, I think, than just camping out outside somebody's house. And
it will, and I think it's going to get a lot more violent, because the more Martin Luther King said, a riot is the voice of the unheard. What is it that America is failing to hear?
Right.
And so...
And to be clear, we are not inciting violence in the streets, but these are the conditions that build up to that powder keg where the different sides are so far apart that this is what happens.
Right. And it's going to happen, and there's going to be a massive shift in which way it goes. I think, honestly, like as long as we don't push the button for nukes, I think it's going to be long term. I think there's going to be a socialist shift. It's just like one of our colleagues said, capitalism leads to communism. It's just a matter of when the socialist uprising happens. And it looks like it's starting in different states. Like I said, New York just, right.
Yeah.
A longtime congressman just got ousted by, he was a Democratic congressman, white dude, older white dude, got ousted by
He was supposed to succeed Pelosi as the Speaker of the House if we win back the House in the fall.
And a young, socialist, progressive, Hispanic woman from the Bronx, I think, is where she's from, just ousted him.
And not by a small margin.
No.
It was by like 15 points.
And she won. And that's That's why you're starting to read, Democrats decided to start scaling back the superdelegates. They need to be progressive now, and they know that.
It's the only response. I mean, we keep hearing the Chuck Schumers and Nancy Pelosi's calling for moderation, that we can't freak people out by going too far to the left. But moderation is not what's called for in moments like these.
We're turning a corner. Like I said, it's the side of humanity or the side of money. And I really think that, I know that the Republican Party right now is just basically capitalizing on people's racism and homophobia, and they're feeding it and just feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. And guess who's profiting? Because, it goes back to the old Lyndon Johnson adage where, what was it? You can give the poorest white man the best colored man to look down on, and they'll pick your pockets. Okay, I'm totally paraphrasing. That's not.
You could get a look at the steak with the bull's ass, but I'd rather take the word of the butcher.
You've got lots of jokes tonight.
It was you could make if you could make the poorest white man feel better than the best black man, you could pick his pocket all day long.
They said colored, but yeah. So that's essentially what it boils down to. That's what they're doing, and people are falling for it because they're poor and they're ignorant and they don't understand politics.
People are carried away with it right now, but the effects of the more insidious things that he's doing are going to be felt more and more. There's going to be a massive hangover from the stuff he's doing that won't benefit any of his constituency. It'll benefit his rich friends. And when the tariffs that he's leveraging against other countries come home to roost, when the increased taxes that we're getting from other countries retaliating start raising our prices at the grocery store, people are going to have a complete shit fit, and it's going to be too late. So the people who are noticing what's going on, who are putting up a fight, this is the time. This is the time to get involved at the local level, at the larger levels, and we have a midterm election that we should do what we can with. It's not going to stop everything, but this is.
Don't get caught up in this concept that the blue wave is coming.
No, it's really not.
You have to get out there. We have to mobilize people. Again, there were not enough votes in Stanislaus County for all of the Democratic candidates to overthrow the current incumbent. So we have to get out there and mobilize people. I know Kelly and I talked about this, and I plan on making our first video on Saturday or so.
Cool.
The feedback that I'm hearing when I ask people, why are you not voting? In just general conversation, they all say, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and I feel like I'm too, uninformed to vote. And so, Kelly and I talked about breaking down the process of the basic bare minimum of electorate, because you don't have to know everything. You just need to know enough to cast your ballot. There's a lot of civics involved, and you don't need to know everything. So,
and chances are most people aren't. If you read through what's on the ballot, like you literally just have to get the essence of or the gist of, because most of the people aren't going to understand all of the wording.
No, and the sample ballots do a pretty good job of simplistically breaking it down. There are also a lot of websites like votesmart.org and places like that can kind of give you a basic rundown. And those that like to read the bill in its entirety can do that on the basic government websites. So that way you're not getting a lot of skewed. But that's stuff that we can cover when we talk about this. There are ways to get the information. I wasn't born knowing all of it, and I didn't learn most of it in schools. I did it.
Right, but this is how this country was designed to work in a time before there were so many distractions and sources of entertainment and things to fill our time. The Founding Fathers built this country in the idea that we would have an informed electorate who would vote, weigh in on the important issues, and elect representatives who would represent their constituents, in the way that they wanted to. And that's all gotten sort of lost in the mix. Now we have people that we elect who don't have term limits, so they stay and make a career out of it. They get rich making deals behind the scenes. And at the end of the day, what's left is that we get a vote every couple of years, and it's our job to be informed about it. And that information is available if we'll look for it. But that's all we have left.
And
all right.
I think stressing the importance of the midterms, because they're almost more important. The local elections are more important than the general election. So
Yeah, and it's less sexy, and they count on people not turning out. So we got to get out there.
Facebook.com/That's Delightful, on Twitter @DelightfulCast, our Patreon page, patreon.com/That's Delightful, and now on Instagram, Totally Delightful Stuff. You can find That's Delightful on IG because we are hip, we are cool, we are with the people.
Are you talking about the Insta?
The Insta, we IG
I
all up
love the Insta.
hashtag Insta-Trump.
You don't do Instagram, do you?
I have 2 pictures on my Instagram. One is of my niece, and one is of my daughter in a Donatello mask. It's the creepiest Instagram of all time. It's 2 little girls. And I don't know how to add I have an account. People follow me sometimes, and I'm like, what must they be seeing right now? Well, I know exactly what it is. It's 2 small girls on my Instagram account, and I don't know how to add more pictures.
You reminded me of John Mulaney one time when he said... You know, like you run into things that you don't know what's happening there, but you said I ran into a wheelchair and it was tipped over sideways. You know, you hope a miracle happened, but that's probably not what happened. All right, let's move into what we find delightful over the course of the next week. Who wants to go first?
I will.
Okay, because Michelle's passionate about tonight's delightful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I spent the last couple days at. It's funny. The Latina Entrepreneurship Symposium here in Modesto. It was sponsored by Coca-Cola, LULAC, and locally by El Concilio and the Women's Education and Leadership League.
Are you thinking about converting to Latinism?
Yes.
What is Coca-Cola Spanish for?
So it was really awesome, actually. It was better than I expected. It was a lot of really good business information by experts, essentially, in the field. You know, we had financial experts, we had a lawyer, we had a very prominent two very prominent businesswomen in the area. And it was, you know, women of color are paid 55 cents to the dollar, whereas, you know, white women are 70 cents to the dollar. And it's an opportunity for women to get out there and open their own business, which is actually very, you know, I learned the past couple days. It's very controversial in the Latina community or Latino community. I don't know how to say that. Latinx community.
Latinx.
So it's, you know, traditionally, culturally, it's a patriarchy, and they don't necessarily support women going into business. So outside of that was delightful. But there was this woman there who, she's a little bit older, awesome. She later in life decided to start a business, Party Designs and Cakes. And she, like, the first time I sat down, she was like, here's my business card. My name is Lily. So Lily, her name is Lilia Padilla, and she has, if you look her up on Facebook, she doesn't have much on there. Hopefully after this week's marketing seminar, she will get better
Lilia.
on Facebook.
Looking at you, Chica.
Her Facebook is facebook.com/Party Designs and Cakes by Lily. So
Lilly?
Lilly. Is that?
Oh, let me look on there.
Girl.
Facebook.com/Party Designs and Cakes by Lily. Lili. Lily.
So
We'll link to it on our Facebook.
yes. So I respected, you know, her zeal. You know, we talked about it for a little bit while we were on break, and she was explaining, you know, she'd had a passion for this for a long time, and her husband got sick, and so she had to put it on hold. But this year she's trying to really get her business out there. And I thought she was really pleasant and sweet, and she, you know, it was cute because she was like, I'm not usually good at this. I'm not good at putting myself out there, but I'm pushing it. And I think every person in that room left with her card. Okay.
That is
she
so
was
cool.
like, I'm Lily, I make cakes.
She's a hustler, baby.
Yes, she was a hustler. She was getting it down.
Buy one of my cakes. I'm gluten-free. Buy a fucking cake.
She was taking notes, taking pictures of the screen.
Don't like cakes. Get a fucking cake.
So she was
By
taking.
Lily.
You done?
Sorry, go ahead.
So, she does party design, event planning, and she was just a really cool person. And I really wish her all the success in the world. And I think she deserves a good plug on the dozens of people who listen to our show. 'Cause
Literally
a lot of them are
dozens.
local.
My son's birthday's tomorrow. I wonder if Lily could make a cake by tomorrow.
She probably would. She makes tres leches cake.
Oh, that's my favorite.
And
Why don't you reach out to her tonight?
I love that shit.
I'll bet she'll do it.
I
She's a
got 2
hustler.
business cards.
Have you guys had a tres leches cake?
Yes.
Never.
That was the whitest I've ever heard you say anything
I had to
Spanish.
stop myself because I was about to say it with the accent, and
Where
I
can
feel
I
like
get
a
one
douche
at?
when I do that.
I feel like a douche when I do it too.
Can I
That's
buy
why-
like a slice at the Rayleigh's?
A tres leches.
Yeah.
Well, it's you want it
it's so
fresh
good.
because it's like it's not just moist; it's soaking in.
in milk? Yeah.
Milk.
Leche's is milk, right?
Yeah, it's so
Okay.
good. Oh my god! But
It's
Leches and vanos.
Does she do flan?
Flan?
Probably. She was like, "I'll do anything."
I want a birthday flan.
What is flan?
You don't know
is like
flan?
it's like a custard.
Well, she has.
Flan is what
well,
they made at the end of Envy with Jack Black and Ben Stiller.
They had. She has one of the pictures she has. I was going through her Facebook tonight. Is a beautiful custard type.
I bet you she
Dessert?
makes the flan.
She's gotta make the flan.
I haven't had good flan in a long time.
All right, I have a feeling I know what your delightful is going to be, but take it there. Let's see what you got.
All right. I mean, there are a few delightful things that happened this week, but I'm gonna go with the return of Big Brother.
Knew it.
Big Brother's back. Big Brother's back, everybody.
Big Brother 20, right?
Our republic is crumbling around us. This is the 20th season of Big Brother. Might as well enjoy it while it lasts. Who knows if there's going to be a 21st. It is an annual ritual. I watch it. My kids watch it. It is so much fun. It's on 3 nights a week, but really it's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because you can subscribe to live feeds, actual cameras inside the house. You can watch them pick their nose and wipe it on the wall. You can watch them sit out in the spa and talk about their brushes with famous people. You can watch about the 5 times they tried out to get on Survivor and how they threw them a bone and put them on Big Brother because they had nowhere else to put them. It's the best. This season has 16 new house guests. We have, oh, you're back. We have 16 new house guests this year. We have, among them, actually I have kind of a crush on her. Her name is Sam. She is a welder who lives in a camper in her mom's side yard.
Obviously, that's what should happen.
She's awesome. She's hardcore and she hates bullies like me.
Not having a fixed address is what keeps her creative juices flowing when she makes that metal art.
That's right.
Okay.
She has a thick accent like this. That's probably not what she sounds like, but anyway. We have let's see.
You have a little person gay bodybuilder, right?
Yes, we have a little person gay bodybuilder in that order. He is awesome. He also has a thick Spanish accent, so you can barely understand him. But he's just a ball of energy. He's bouncing off the walls. You have a guy who he described himself as Elmo. Crap, how did he call it? Anyway, his voice sounds like Elmo if Elmo hit puberty. Puberty Elmo. It's kind of not as high pitched, but it's as scratchy. But he's also charming as hell. You have your usual gaggle of unself-aware pretty people who will all probably climb into bed with each other at some point this summer. It's just so much fun, you guys. Big Brother is so much fun. It's on 3 nights a week. If anybody wants to watch it, it's always on in my house.
So I'm going to go back on demand and watch at least the first episode. I'm
Yes,
gonna give it an honest
Ian,
shot.
yes.
And then I set up my DVR to record it. I can't promise anything. I'm going to put it on when Michelle is sitting in her chair. Michelle finds most of the shows that she watches per my request and or recommendation by sitting in her chair and then me just putting it on. That's how she finally started watching Parks and Rec.
Like most good women, I let my husband lead me in things.
Yeah, thank God there's a man around. So I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it an honest shot. Can't promise anything,
Oh man!
but I will give Big
Just
Brother
give
an honest
yourself
shot.
over to it. It plays out over the course of a week, so every episode has its own kind of predictable cycle. There's one episode that has to do with the head of household competition, where they will have a contest, the winner of which becomes the head of the house for the week.
They only live together for the week?
No. They're there for about 100 days.
Oh, okay.
but each week somebody gets evicted and somebody gets elected to lead the house.
Okay.
And anyway, we could get into the
I'll pick it up.
rules,
I don't need to watch.
It's
the
just
first
so
ones,
great,
right?
you guys.
Is this the kind of thing where you go back and you watch previous seasons, or can you just pick it up at 20 and say fuck it to the rest?
Some people do, yeah. No, if you've never watched it before, just jump in. I started at season 11.
Okay.
I've been watching it for 9 years now. Gosh, and I've never missed a season since. Some seasons are up, some seasons are down, but this one looks pretty interesting.
All right.
Just saying.
So my delightful this week is I'm a huge baseball fan. I don't follow current baseball per se. I'm a big fan of the history of the game.
Is it that kind of thing where you could jump in and watch old seasons? And
yeah, I mean, I could. Shut up. I know a lot about the history of baseball. I know a lot. I've been a fan of baseball since I was a wee little lad. And then when the juicing scandal hit, like that kind of killed it for me a little bit. And I'm just now starting to kind of come back around. Barry Bonds is a pile of shit. So anyway.
wow. Greatest hitter of our
It's
time.
like my favorite conversation.
Wow, we
between
drew her
the two of
back
them.
in. She disappeared into her phone.
But this weekend, I get to put on my stirrups and my white pants and a batting helmet, and I get to attempt to hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball at the Modesto Nuts Stadium.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm
That
gonna
is
go out there.
awesome.
I'm starting a video series called Nailed It through my work, and I've already done a cheer routine with the Sacramento Kings dance team. I learned how to do a regular dance routine with a boy band. I'm going to try and play one-on-one against a professional basketball player come September. I'm going to try and block some goals as a goalie for the Stockton Heat when they come back around. But this weekend, I'm going to try and train with the Modesto Nuts and hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
90-mile-an-hour fastball.
I'm saying that. I'm hoping it's that. Just
Wow.
because, that's cool.
That would be pretty cool.
But what I'm really psyched about is John Thurman Field, where I'm doing it at. Mark McGuire, Walt Weiss, two Oakland A's legends, played here in Modesto on that field. And I was telling Michelle about it earlier. I was like, I don't think you understand like how legendary some of these players were that came through here. And she was just kind of like, yeah, I've been on that field before. I watched a concert there, whatever. I'm like, no, not in this context, though. But anyway.
I got to run the bases there once.
Did you get to run the base? It's cool, right?
They did it was during a game, my seat got picked. They did a thing called Beat the Runner for a while, where their mascot would start at second base and walk, and you got to start at home. You had to run the bases and try and beat him home.
Did you
win?
win?
It was during the 7th inning stretch. No, the fucker started power walking right at the end.
Sounds
I was
not
like
right.
12 years old.
What were you going to win? Do you remember what the prize was?
T-shirt or some shit. Cheese and crackers. I don't know.
You get one of our 5,000 sponge balls. Anyway, when we come back next time, I should be able to tell you whether or not I'm able to hit a major league 90-mile-per-hour fastball. So,
Dude,
huzzah.
that's awesome. Is this going to happen like behind closed doors? Is it going to happen during a game? What?
It's going to happen behind closed doors. It's going to be a whole video production. I'm taking a video guy out there. We're going to do a few things. I've got kind of a storyboard laid out for what I want to do.
I can't wait to
So,
see this.
it'll be a lot of fun. All right, Facebook.com/That's Delightful. On Twitter @DelightfulCast. Of course, our Patreon page. If you would like to donate to the show and help out with some of our expenses, we would love it at Patreon.com/That's Delightful. Also, we're a part of the Pod Bros Network. And
We are?
We are a part of the Pod Bros Network.
Do they have any other shows?
And they've got lots of shows. Did you not hear me talk about the language of romance earlier?
Oh, that's right. I
Okay.
knew it. Ring a bell.
So the Pod Bros Network does not make a whole lot of money. One of their streams of revenue is through Google Ads. Google Ads just kicked the Pod Bros off as far as placing ads on their website not because we have shows with names like Bukkake in them or anything like that, but because some of the music used in some of the other podcasts were licensed pieces of music that weren't being paid for. And so Google kicked them off and said, you can't make money through Google AdSense anymore. So patreon.com/podbros. If you could spare a buck, they're looking to get a few more Patreon supporters, and they've reached out to the other podcasts and asked the other podcasts if they can mention within their podcast that the Pod Bros could use a buck or two through their Patreon page. If you can swing it, they would really appreciate it. So patreon.com, search out Pod Bros. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to That's Delightful. Online at totallydelightfulstuff.com, facebook.com/That's Delightful, and on Twitter @That's Delightful1.